The Anakim, or Anakites, were a formidable race of giant warlike people who occupied the lands of southern Palestine near Hebron before the arrival of the Israelites. Their ancestry has been traced back to Anak, the son of Arba, who was regarded as the greatest man among the Anakim. The name Anakim is said by some to mean long-necked or tall. Some scholars have theorized that the Anakim could be connected to the ANUNAKI, celestial beings from ancient Mesopotamian texts. This connection suggests that the Anakim were descendants of these powerful cosmic entities, akin to the Nephilim, who dominated the earth in ancient times. When the 12 Israelite spies returned from exploring the Promised Land, they reported encountering people great and tall, identified as the sons of Anak. Overwhelmed by fear and perceiving themselves as mere grasshoppers in comparison, the Israelites rebelled and refused to advance into the land. Despite assurances not to fear the Anakim, the Israelites' lack of faith resulted in them being barred from entering the Promised Land, with only Joshua and Caleb as exceptions. Consequently, they were condemned to wander for an additional 38 years in the wilderness. During the conquest of Canaan, Joshua successfully expelled the Anakim from the hill country, and Caleb eradicated them from Hebron. However, a small remnant found sanctuary in the cities of Gaza, Gath, and Ashdod. This enduring legacy has led many scholars to speculate that the descendants of the Anakim may have included the Philistine giants David encountered, such as Goliath of Gath, possibly linking them further to the mythos of the Anunnaki.
One of the things you'll learn about Anunnaki is there's hybrids on Earth, human Anunnaki hybrids. They look like us because they're half human. And they made sure in the genetics that they were going to look like human. And these are the ones we call Nephilim.
Who's more evolved? We're consider ourselves to be more evolved. But you look at the simians, they have 48 chromosomes. We only have 46. Where did that change occur? Where did we get this new understanding? And how did we lose two chromosomes?
Chromosome number 2 in the human body was pulled out, fused together, and then 2 telomere caps are put on each end. This happened around 200,000 years ago. Now, something else happened around that same time. We have this gene in us, this worship gene, which was inserted into the human genome. We know this now because scientists have actually found the worship gene. You can turn it on and they can turn it actually off.
What?
Yes, we have a worship gene.
Worship gene.
That's right. And so it makes us want to worship something outside of ourselves, when in true reality, we should find the power inside. And this was inserted by the Anunnaki. That's my opinion. That's my hypothesis.
Whether you want to call it the Anunnaki or some other influence that acted upon us, but there's been a change within our DNA and our structure.
What's so crazy about the Book of Enoch is that even though it is a hidden book of the Bible, it also correlates to ancient Sumerian texts, and Enoch was also said to be in ancient Samaria the first priest. Welcome back to another episode of That's Insane with Aja, where I talk about the Book of Enoch, Dead Sea Scrolls, as well as ancient apocryphal texts and hidden books of the Bible. Today I'm going to be telling you about how Enoch was in ancient Sumerian text, as well as different parts of the Dead Sea Scrolls, even though that this book was taken from the Bible long before it. Now, first, someone might ask, who was Enoch? Enoch actually was the leader of the archangels. He was said to have walked with God, and he is the author of all 3 books of Enoch that tell his descents across the celestial heavens and this mission that was sent to him by God. Now, these 3 books that were taken out of the Bible recount how Enoch was taken up to the heaven and was appointed guardian of the celestial treasures, chief of the archangels, and the immediate attendant on the throne of God. He was subsequently taught all secrets and mysteries, and with all the angels at his back, fulfills his own according to whatever the mouth of God says. He lived 365 years and was taken when God took him up to heaven as he walked with God, which basically means he entered heaven alive. Now, the first book of Enoch is where we meet the fallen angels who mate with humans and create the Nephilim, and they create sirens, and they mate with 200 different species of animals on earth and teach women makeup and give war to men, and they basically corrupt mankind. And we see Enoch go on this mission to trap the angels under the Euphrates River and do things that God tells him to do, even before Noah builds his ark, because Enoch was the great grandfather of Noah. And he asked God to save his bloodline, which would be Noah, and this is why Noah was able to build the ark and got the information from God. The thing about the book of Enoch was that it was found in multiple different places on scribes and even in cuneiform script. It was found in the Qumran caves, and it was a part of the Dead Sea Scroll, as well as part of the apocryphal text and even in ancient Sumerian tablets. One might think, why is it significant that the book of Enoch even correlates to ancient Sumeria? But that is because the ancient Sumerian people believed in the Anunnaki and gave them all types of glory and said that they practiced things like gene splicing. For Enoch to pop up in ancient Sumerian text and in other biblical text is absolutely significant, and we should pay attention. Now, in ancient Sumeria, Enoch was known as the first priest, or En-mi-dor-en-kai, like Anunnaki. Notice how when they describe Enoch as the priest, it has that last word, En-kai, which is where the Anunnaki came from, who were said to be the sons and daughters of An and Kai. And Enoch was further known as the man from the city Sippar, taken heavenward to be taught the secrets of heaven and earth, of divination, and the calendar. This is extremely significant because do you guys know that the Sumerian are the reason we can calculate time down to seconds and minutes? They came up with the metric system, the wheel, irrigation, and they gave all of this, like circumference, like, oh, we learned this because of the Anunnaki and because of Enoch, or the first priest to travel to heaven. Now, this video is already 3 to 4 minutes, so I'm going to do a part 2, but just know it's going to blow your mind. So like, follow, share for more.
A lot of the tablets go back about 6,000 to 8,000 years, which is why a lot of the biblical text only records 6,000 years of Earth's history, because they took their history and information from Sumerian tablets. The Sumerian tablets were directly copied right into biblical text in the Old Testament. And this is why people who become Christians believe the Earth is only 6,000, the Zealots, 6,000 years old, but that's actually not accurate. They're only coming up with that number because that's the date of the majority of the Sumerian tablets where the information was plagiarized. But we know that those tablets now, because we keep finding older tablets. We know that those tablets are copies of even older tablets. So as tablets get passed on from time to time and they age, or they want to take a copy of a tablet to another region, it would be copied. In other words, somebody would sit there with a stylus and copy the information from tablet to tablet. So there's versions and versions and versions. We've even found an older version of the Enuma Elish. And so even in the oldest version, there's a planet named Nibiru in the oldest version, but in the more recent version, which is about 6,000 years old, it's named Marduk, because Marduk changed the name to his name because he wanted to be the destroyer. So there's versions of these tablets that exist over time. They've been recopied.
Some people will state that we are the Anunnaki, and some people will say that the Anunnaki are invaders. The Anunnaki is this advanced race of people from the planet Nibiru, and they will come back and forth to Earth harvesting our gold, and in return they will give the humans advanced technology. Now this planet Nibiru is supposed to come back in our solar system and purge the planet, but you guys must understand that we have a glass dome up there. This is not possible at all. The gateway is in the center of Earth. Now Zechariah Ascension, he will translate these tablets and give it to our peoples. You guys must understand we had an ancient spiritual mystery system set up, and some people can't go within and break down these riddles. Just like when you are reading the Bible, these psalms could mean different things. Your knowledge comes from based off what you think reality is. We are the ancient ones. We are advanced people. This is not our history. I could put some clay together, scribble on it, and go bake it in my oven right now. You guys can't believe anything. These people be called the Sumerians because they was in the land of Sumer. Sumer, which actually is a compound word meaning Shu, Meru. Shu would be the Egyptian god of the skies. Meru means Mount Meru, and this is an advanced sacred golden mountain. Neberu will break down to Neb-Heru. Neb means Lord or Master. Heru means the morning star, and that morning star will rise again, and that rise is within you. They will create the alien stories to discredit the powers and psychic abilities of the ancient people. Everything is within, and the third eye is supposed to bring judgment. In the Bible, they say God lived within all of us. This is what they are talking about, the pineal. People would then try to trace the Anunnaki language and see which origins it originated from. They would figure out that the Anunnaki language is similar to the language that the Africans use. So Enki just means Lord of the Earth. Enlil means Lord of the Sky. These are just titles. Enki was said to be half reptile, the green one, and Enlil would be full Anunnaki. This same story is found in Egypt. Enki is actually Osiris. Enlil will always wear this crown with horns sticking up. Enlil would be Seth in Egypt. Now Anu is their highest god. Anu stands for Africans Nations United. Now if you look close, Anu is wearing the same hat that the Moors wear. Anu is also wearing the Rosicrucian cross. So this Anunnaki ufology was started by your Moors and your Europeans, or you can say by Islam and the Christians. The Moors would leave Egypt and go to Rome, and they would set up this treaty with the Romans and give you guys ufology to discredit the power of our people. I hope I didn't offend anybody with this lecture. This is supreme knowledge. I'm always speak the truth. Peace and Ashe.
Have you ever wondered why ancient Sumerian gods are often depicted wearing what looks like watches? They seem to appear in countless carvings and sculptures dating back to 4500 BC. So, what could these possibly be? The watches are often seen on the wrists of gods like Anu and Enki, and they were not timekeeping devices. They were a form of advanced technology used for communication and even energy manipulation. Imagine a device so powerful it could control the elements and even alter reality itself. But it gets even stranger. They are also depicted with handbags. These items are not only seen in Sumerian art, but also in art from ancient Egypt, Central America, and Turkey. Some theories suggest these bags are portable repositories of knowledge and that they contained tools or devices used for creating and maintaining the cosmos. These depictions are often connected with the Anunnaki, and they prove that human society was far more advanced in the past than it is in the present day. Our ancestors carved and drew what they saw. It was not a figment of their imagination. They carved animals, plants, and structures that all exist. Yet people seem to think they imagined these watches or handbags. What do you think? Were our ancestors more advanced than we give them credit for?
Someone told me I was going to be collecting stone watches and handbags. I would have really laughed at them here a couple years ago. But here we are, stone wristwatches, jewelry boxes made of stone. The workmanship and craftsmanship, rather, that go into something like this, it's really quite a piece. The entire thing is decorated in a luminescent material. The box is intricately carved with numerous symbols and different types of almost Egyptian/Sumerian looking language, with many depictions of Sumerian looking Anunnaki type beings, except with elongated skulls or with tentacles or different animal type hybridizations, elephants, bulls, fish, flying insects. Got a lot to learn here. This watch is definitely something that it just really made me shake my head, because it's a functional watch. It's got all the 12 positions around this quartz crystal, and when you hit it with the light, the crystal creates a shadow, just like you would see something like on the Flintstones. It's pretty remarkable. You know, they say that the Anunnaki are the ones who divided the days of the week, the hours of the day, etc. Seeing the chessboards and telescopes, different types of tools, it's definitely not impossible that the Anunnaki did bring a lot of these things, as it's said in the tablets. I imagine as technology progresses, we'll learn more and more about the language and what we found here. I hope anyways, because right now, we're still scratching our heads.
Father Carlos Crespi Croce was born in Milan, Italy in 1891 and died in 1982. He was a Salesian monk who dedicated his life to worship and charity and lived in the small town of Cuenca in Ecuador for more than 50 years. A man of many talents, he had been an educator, botanist, anthropologist, musician, and above all, humanitarian. Because of his missionary work, he became close to the indigenous people of Ecuador and was a highly respected person among the tribes, who considered him a true friend of theirs. The indigenous people gave Father Crespi gifts of ancient artifacts to thank him for the work he was doing to help them. They said the items brought to him had been found in subterranean tunnels in the jungles of Ecuador, spanning more than 200 kilometers, starting from the village of Cuenca. The amazing artifacts given to him had uncanny similarities with civilizations of the East and were enough to fill up a large museum. Father Crespi was trusted by the Vatican to open a museum in the Salesian school at Cuenca, and up until 1960 it was the largest museum in Ecuador. However, Crespi suggested that there was an obvious connection between the artifacts and the ancient civilizations of Babylon and Sumeria. What he did not consider is that such a suggestion would go against mainstream opinions. A short time later, the museum was burnt down and most of the artifacts were destroyed, with the exception of a few that he managed to save. However, when Father Crespi died, all the remaining artifacts were hidden from public view forever. Rumors suggest that the artifacts were shipped to the Vatican. Father Crespi claimed that most of the symbols and prehistoric representation on the artifacts are older than the Great Flood. Explorer Richard Wingate mentioned that the artifacts were identified as Assyrian, Egyptian, Chinese, and African. The credibility of Father Crespi and his collection is not under doubt. However, the age and the origin of the items is still unknown, and the fact that all of them vanished makes it more difficult to research further into their origins. Just imagine what the revelation of such a treasure would mean for the books of archaeology and our perception of human origins.
Most people know this creation story, but do you know there is a creation story that predates this, that is eerily similar, but also describes how human beings were made by an extraterrestrial race or gods for slave labor? That's right, today we're diving into ancient Sumeria and what many scholars believe is the OG creation story. Also, don't pay attention to my nails, my daughters just did them. Leave me alone. So this part of the world was called the Fertile Crescent, and this land between two rivers was called Mesopotamia. This is the area where Sumer came to be, and it is the world's first advanced civilization. Sumerians are credited with inventing writing, the wheel, the plow, advanced irrigation systems. They had advanced city-states that had a ruler that would report to a king, which is credited for being one of the first legal systems. All of this we have learned from their texts. Well, how did we find these texts? Well, you might recognize, if you've been watching my videos when we do the deep dives into various religions, Abraham, who is the father of Christianity, Judaism, Islam, came from this area in Mesopotamia. So many archaeologists throughout the world have gone to these sites to search for biblical artifacts. They want to visit these biblical sites. And what they found was pretty shocking, because a lot of these archaeologists were biblical archaeologists. They thought that the Bible was the oldest resource that the world had, and these tablets described stories that predate what we know as the Bible. One of these stories were about the gods who were on earth working and toiling. There were lesser gods that were working for them, and eventually they rebelled. These gods knew that they needed to create a labor force, and so they did. Human beings were created with the first human that could reproduce being named Adamu or Adapu. The land that they were created in? Eden. Eden is a Sumerian word that means flatlands. What's interesting is eventually these gods essentially become angry with human beings and decide it's time to wipe out the earth. But one god has compassion and talks to one human so that they might be saved. He warns the human there's going to be a great flood, gather some animals, you know the rest. His name was Ziusudra, and this happened in 2150 BCE. His name changed many times depending on who was in power. But now many experts believe that this is like the OG Great Flood myth, and possibly the source, because every single nation, every single people, every single culture, like I'll do a deep dive on that in and of itself. It's crazy because everybody has a Great Flood story. So why is all this important? Well, the ancient Sumerians believed in their gods, and they were called the Anunnaki. And many people in modern times believe that these were not just gods. Yes, they were higher beings, but they were higher, more intellectually evolved, a more advanced civilization of extraterrestrials who came to Earth because they needed our resources. They saw an opportunity to create a labor force, and they did. What's interesting is these gods are often depicted with elongated skulls. Queen Poppy, who is one of the first Sumerian queens, was considered to be an Anunnaki human hybrid, and she had an elongated skull. And many people hypothesize that you see these elongated skulls everywhere. Now, could this just be a fashion statement, to signify nobility, or could it be something more? What's interesting is they've found a lot of these elongated skulls within Peru, and they have done some DNA testing, and guess what they have found? That DNA has shown genetics that originates in Mesopotamia, Sumer, whatever you want to call it. In the next video, we're diving deep into the creation story, so make sure you're following.
Anunnaki. According to some interpretations of ancient Sumerian texts, the Anunnaki are an advanced alien race that visited Earth thousands of years ago. Some theorists claim they genetically engineered humans to serve them as workers, possibly in the context of mining Earth's resources, especially gold. The Anunnaki were seen as divine beings who played important roles in creation myths, the administration of human affairs, and the underworld. They were often depicted as intermediaries between the gods and humans, overseeing the fate of mankind. In ancient texts, the Anunnaki were associated with creation myths, where they played a role in the creation of humanity to serve the gods. In later myths, they became associated with the netherworld, judging the souls of the dead. In modern pseudoscience and conspiracy theories, the Anunnaki are often reinterpreted as ancient extraterrestrial beings. These theories claim that the Anunnaki were aliens who visited Earth in ancient times, genetically engineered humans, and influenced the development of civilization.
Have you ever heard of the Anunnaki? These ancient beings from Mesopotamian mythology have been the subject of much fascination and debate in recent years. But what if I told you that some people believe the Anunnaki were real and may have actually played a role in human history? According to this theory, the Anunnaki were a group of extraterrestrial beings who came to Earth thousands of years ago. They were said to be highly advanced, possessing knowledge and technology far beyond anything humans of that time could comprehend. But what did they want with us? Some believe that the Anunnaki were responsible for creating humanity, using genetic engineering to create a hybrid race of humans and their own species. Others believe they simply visited Earth to mine for resources, and may have even taught ancient civilizations like the Sumerians advanced techniques like agriculture and metalworking. While there is no concrete evidence to support the existence of the Anunnaki, their legend has persisted for centuries. Whether they were real or simply a myth, their story continues to captivate and inspire those who seek to understand the mysteries of our past.
Who is Enoch?
Enoch is half human, half Anunnaki, according to some of the texts. So he's a quote-unquote demigod, supposedly. So he was, his father was a god with a lowercase g, and his mother was a human being. He was special. And these beings that came to visit gave him an appointed date that he would be taken away from Earth. And so he got taken away from Earth, and he then describes the shape of the Earth, the size, the color, everything from space. Gigantic blue glowing sphere. He's then brought back at some point in the future. In the Bible, it seems as if he just disappeared from Earth and he was taken into heaven and never came back. In the book of Enoch, you find out he was brought back. Pretty interesting. Also, what's interesting about Enoch is he came back with some advanced knowledge and understanding about construction techniques. Okay. So all of a sudden, this guy understands and knows how to build megalithic structures. Who taught him this information? Wherever he went, he became a student, and he had this knowledge and this wisdom.
April 10th, 2003. United States forces make their way to the capital city of Baghdad, just 3 weeks after the launch of Operation Iraqi Freedom. American troops attempt to create and maintain order, but looters fill the streets, ransacking museums and destroying thousands of ancient artifacts.
Looters forced their way into the National Museum and stole all kinds of artifacts, including musical instruments and cuneiform tablets that told the history of ancient Sumeria going back 6,000 years or more. The genealogies and histories of the gods were there, and stories of the flood. But now, many of these texts are missing from us.
Now, it wasn't just people off the streets smashing a window and taking an artifact. There were people wearing earpieces, a very coordinated event, penetrating double-locked doors, and stealing instruments and jewelry and all kinds of artifacts that date back thousands of years, all the way back to the cradle of our civilization.
But why would militants destroy such precious objects of the ancient world? Was it really just a consequence of war, or a deliberate attempt to obliterate forbidden knowledge of the past?
Yaki Elohim. Elohim just means Anunnaki. It's these group of beings. When God's in the Bible says God said, let man, let us, plural. It says, and God said, and Elohim said. Elohim is God. And so when you look at the word Elohim, it means God with an S, gods, plural. So many gods created man. It said, let is God, and God said, let us make man in our image and after our likeness. So it shows you that mankind is a template, and we look like our creator. That's the first thing they said, right? And then once you see that, then it says what they gonna do. I'm gonna give them the dominion over the fish of the sea, the birds of the air, woody-wop and this and that. But notice the instruction came. He created Adam and Eve. He put Adam and Eve, Elohim did. So Elohim, these gods, created man. This biological man, they put this man in a garden, right? So they put man in a garden, and then it says his whole purpose was to dress and keep the garden. So his whole purpose was for servitude in the first place. He was supposed to dress and keep this little simulation that the creator Elohim put him in. Then it said that he got smart and he disobeyed Elohim, right? And when he got smart and disobeyed Elohim, he left one service place where it didn't seem like he was working, but to dress and keep the garden is still servitude. You know, he had to guard the garden. What was he guarding the garden for? And he had to dress it, meaning he had to build it up and make it fashionable for him and his family. But after Adam and Kawar, who they call Adam and Eve, went against Elohim's plan and instructions, he kicked them out of one simulation and then he put them in a more hostile environment. Now, in this hostile environment, guess what it says? It says that they had to work from the sweat of thy what? Brow. So now they went from this, tilling the garden to this rigorous hard work. Then you start looking around in the book of Genesis, it's talked about how they worked in a place where there was gold, Havilah, where there was gold. It talks about that they gold mine. It talks about how they was working in the middle of 4 rivers, which where the garden was at. They kicked them out of the garden and put something called a Melachine or archangel in to keep them from getting back into paradise. And while they was outside of paradise, they literally had to work from the sweat of their brow. And if you read in the book of Enoch, or you read in the book of Jasher, or you read in the book of Adam and Eve, it shows how rigorous their work was.
Egyptian artifacts make absolutely zero sense, and archaeologists might just be afraid of being wrong. How is it the further back in time we go, the more advanced they get? Egypt is old, like really old. Egypt is so old that even ancient Egyptians studied ancient Egyptian history thousands of years older than them. When the Romans discovered the pyramids, they were older to the Romans than the Romans are to us today. Woolly mammoths still roamed the earth when they were first built. And of course, everyone knows that Cleopatra lived closer to the invention of the iPhone, or hell, closer to you watching this video right now than she did to the construction of the pyramids. What's strange is that as time went on, their artifacts somehow got less and less advanced. The Egyptian Empire reigned for about 3,000 years, divided into approximately 31 dynasties classified into the Old, Middle, and New Kingdoms. When we go back to the first 5 or so dynasties, the Old Kingdom, we see impressive feats of design engineering unlike any other. And impressive is an understatement. These are straight up machine perfect down to the micrometer. Like this round vase, perfectly balancing itself dead center on a point no larger than the tip of an egg. Except this isn't your pottery class vase made of clay. It's granite. And granite is harder than steel. That's a fact. Here are the numbers. Here's another vase, slightly chipped, revealing its walls are as thin as a playing card. Another bowl made from diorite, a stone as hard or even slightly harder than granite, whose walls are literally 1/40th of an inch or half a millimeter thick. We have no idea how to make granite pottery like this using known ancient methods, although high-tech machines could probably do the trick. But I don't think you realize how insane it is to suggest that this level of mechanical precision was achieved on granite using primitive tools softer than granite, the official claim. And these are just a few. There were over 40,000 of these artifacts found under the Step Pyramid of Djoser dating back to the 3rd or 4th dynasty, with some suggesting they're actually pre-dynastic, meaning they're even older, and the Old Kingdom Egyptians just inherited them from a previous civilization. Oh, we're in too deep now, Johnny boy. It's only in recent times when we finally analyzed them with modern light scanning technology that we found out how mind-bendingly precise they really are. They took a jar, did some measurements in a lab, and to this day, Egyptologists have no explanation for these results. The top of the vase was 3,000ths of an inch away from being perfectly flat, something only possible with like CNC machines today. For reference, a sheet of paper is 7,000ths of an inch thick. A human hair is 2 to 3. This thing was a literal hair away from being perfectly flat. The inside lip of the vase's mouth was 1/1000th of an inch away from being perfectly perpendicular to the top, which is a mathematically flawless right angle. And the entire vase was 13,000ths of an inch, which is still just like 2 sheets of paper away from being perfectly circular. These are legit CNC machine level perfections, mass produced over 40,000 times on a material harder than steel using copper and stone tools by hand. Oh, and they might be pre-dynastic before copper tools were widely even used. I don't see.
There is a secret energy that can make you so powerful that no one can overpower you. The ancient Sumerians and Anunnaki harnessed it. I'm gonna tell you what it is, because this knowledge is being hidden from us. Plasma. So, number 1, these are all ancient drawings of cave drawings and ancient art. The one on the top left, the purple one, that's plasma from a lab, a science lab now. They were trying to tell us that plasma is the energy that they're working with. These are different electric discharge forms of plasma. And then, as you can see up here, are drawings from ancient times. Very similar. Very similar. This is the Sumerian goddess Inanna. You can see that she's holding almost like a horizon, a sun over the horizon. This was her harnessing the energy of heaven and earth, which is plasma. It is the in-between state, ether. It's the fluid that creates everything. It's the energy of the horizon, Horus. It creates time. Even now, the Vatican, the Bible, was called Helios Biblios. What does that mean? Sun book. The sun is plasma. The Anunnaki wheel is an 8-pointed star. This is plasma. Funny enough, the Star of Inanna is also an 8-pointed star. Also, these little owls right here, this is actually a torus, which is another shape plasma makes, which I'm about to show you, cut in half. So it's almost like seen using plasma power. I know this is a stretch, but you feel me? These are all plasma things. Hopefully you could see the connection. This is a tokamak, what they use for plasma infusion. Very much like the face of an owl, the wise owl. I also love to see what words are backwards. Anana backwards means my cloud or my obscurity. Another pronunciation is Yahweh or cloud of the Lord. Very interesting connection. They just found the Kordaluski dust clouds, and guess what they're made out of? Plasma, and they think they're intelligent. Hopefully you're making some connections here. When it all comes down to it, Anana, plasma, this free energy we can harness, it's inside of us. The power is within you to create your reality, to change your world. There's an inner plasma, an inner power, and then there's an outer power or an outer plasma. We're feedbacking with it. It's learning from us as we learn from it. And knowing that we have the same power inside of us that creates worlds, that's outside of us right now, creating trees, the nature, everything we see, we will remember how powerful we are, which people don't want us to know because it'll probably collapse society. But anyway, I think this is the secret that the gods were trying to tell us, that the Anunnaki, that the Sumerians knew. This power that created free energy is also inside of us. And we, the humans, we are special and powerful, each and every one of us. We have the power of the horizon. We have the powers of the heaven and the earth, consciousness and plasma, consciousness and sentience. We can use these tools to become more expanded, aware beings. It's pretty cool. Let me know what you think.
Well, looky here. This is a medallion, also called a galvanic battery. It's a specific combination of 7 metals. And I'm pretty sure that's what they're wearing. You see, I got this to experiment, and I learned that it charges you even more when it is in salt water or when you perspire. So I was going to encase it into a sweatband. Then I remembered these guys. What if that's what they were doing? They had these on certain parts of their body, just like those armaments. These are armbands at different parts of their meridian body. You see, our body is made of this energetic pathway, and different crystals and metals affect it. And what if they were using this for health and not for teleportation like I thought? That's still possible. I'm gonna go work up a sweat, put this on, and see what happens.
When the tablets were deciphered in the 1820s, they revealed a record of Sumerian daily life names of important figures and rulers and accounts of sky gods called the Anunnaki. These clay tablets are 5,000 years old and more, and they tell of the arrival of the Anunnaki, the pantheon of gods. The chief was Anu. This is the sky god who came along and created everything, so the origin of the civilization on the planet came from the sky, the high god of the Anunnaki. Anu presided over the divine council. There were a multitude of beings that came to this council. They deliberated with Anu. They made decisions for humanity. They intervened in human affairs. At Göbekli Tepe, there's a carving of these 3 handbags that appear above this bird-like creature. And what's fascinating about this is that you can find carvings of similar handbags about 400 miles to the south, where the ancient Sumerians lived.
Things that I've heard from people in the Pentagon, that the buzzword in the secret of secrets in the Pentagon is the Sumerian gods are returning, and that's what they're referring to as that whole area.
The Anunnaki, that's the name of the beings that according to the ancient texts, came from heaven to earth. In the Egyptian culture, they call them the Natiru, and they said they came to earth and turned mud into a kingdom. In the Bible, they call them the Anak. They have these names in all different cultures. They all show up around the same time in every culture, and I started finding more instances of them in every culture I looked into around the same time period. And I go, these people really came here at some point in the distant past. It seems to be now around 450,000 years ago they arrived, and about 200,000 years ago, according to the text, they started genetically tinkering with human beings, saying they were adding their essence to them to get us to do the labor for them. So around 200,000 years ago, they started tinkering with us, and there's a famous cylinder scroll and with some text at the British Museum with Isis, the goddess Isis, who was one of the original Sumerian pantheon, not Egyptian, and she's holding up a baby, and she says, the first Adamu, which means first man, my hands have created it. And she claims to have taken in the text, taken this baby to term for 10 months in her own womb to create the more modern version of Homo sapiens sapien.
Humans were actually created by ancient extraterrestrials. Long ago, an advanced civilization from the planet Nibiru discovered Earth. They were traveling in hopes of finding more materials for their home planet. At the time, Earth was not home to any intelligent life. They used their advanced technology to combine the DNA of their species with the DNA of the Homo erectus, and with this, they created the first humans. This is how Jesus was born from a virgin mother. The human race was created to be turned into slaves for the Anunnaki. We would harvest the Earth's materials for them. This is why there are massive pyramids on almost every continent. When they were filled up with precious metals and the pyramids were activated, it would send a signal up into the cosmos to alert the Anunnaki that they needed to return and collect what
Remember
was
Planet
found.
X?
Yes. This
The
theory
search for
comes
Planet
from
X.
ancient Sumerian texts.
There were several incarnations of Planet X.
Right.
That was among
why
them.
many
Okay.
ancient
That was
cultures
I'm
were
talking
most
about.
wacky.
I'm talking about 100 years ago. Planet X. Okay.
Yes.
Uranus was moving weirdly. Nobody.
The depiction of figures resembling nuclear bombs and explosions in Sumerian tablets has sparked intrigue and speculation among historians and researchers. These ancient artifacts, dating back thousands of years.
The Grand Canyon is more than just a famous American tourist spot. It hides mysterious and, dark secrets. Some explorers have even found a portal to an unseen world. In 1909, the Arizona Gazette reported on an exploration funded by the Smithsonian. This exploration was led by a man named G.E. Kincaid, who found an ancient underground city within the Grand Canyon. Here's where it gets interesting. This city was filled with items from ancient Egypt. It contained like hieroglyphs, statues, and even a pyramid. How did ancient Egyptian artifacts end up in Arizona over 5,000 years ago? Could they have known how to fly? But it gets weirder. The Smithsonian collected all the artifacts and stopped any more explorations, leading to 90% of the Grand Canyon being off limits even today. The canyon has many secret caves and tunnels, hiding old treasures and technologies. Many explorers reported seeing unusual lights and sounds coming from these places. The Hopi tribe, native to this area, talk about sacred underground cities known as the Sipapu. These cities are said to be doorways to the underworld, containing powerful energies that should not be disturbed. This all makes us wonder, what else is hidden in the Grand Canyon?
The Marduk group, which crossed with Omicron, which were the dragon moth people and the dinoids. So these are the Anusaraphim, Anunnaki races. And they've forever been trying to get the territory here. These are the ones that set up the Nibirian data crystal grid in 25,500 BC. But way back in 250,000 BC, they were coming in here speculating for various things. One of the things they were speculating for was gold, because they had depleted Nibiru's resources of organic gold. Now, they used gold in a very specialized way. They, through laboratory ionization, they call it, they create what's called, in contemporary terms, and it used to be called this in Egypt too, white powder gold, which is a substance that has the ability to create, let's say, electrical sparks within the atomic structure that allow more energy to be pulled in from the field around you. So it assists in sustaining immortal life. Not eternal life, but immortal life. There's a difference. You don't want to be immortal. Eternal, yes. Immortal, there are better things to do. But because they were running out of natural gold in their planetary system, and the Palladian system was devoid of it, it didn't have any to mine, Earth was very rich in organic, elemental gold. They literally, on Nibiru, once they created Nibiru in a way where it was in its artificial orbit, and it's an orbit that runs partially through the Phantom Matrix and then back up through our gates and into our system. It used to be in our system completely, but when it fell, they created an orbit that runs between the two systems, and every 3,657.8 years it cycles back through. So to sustain their atmosphere, they had literally changed their atmosphere, and you found a way to imbue this elemental gold ionized particulate structure into this white powder gold substance into their atmosphere, so they breathed it. And after many generations of that, it sustained the Metatronic body, is what it did. It helped to sustain the Metatronic body. After many generations of this, they couldn't survive without it. And there was all sorts of mutations happening on their planet with their peoples because they were running out of the amounts of gold needed to create this in the atmosphere. So they were on speculation journeys, trying to find places where they could rob more gold from. And this is where we got our original value of gold, actually, why it's so important. That was an Anunnaki trait. It's very important to the Anunnaki races because it helps them to sustain their immortal status in their bodies. And now that their bodies are mutated fully into the Metatronics, if they don't have some degree of that frequency that's created through white powder gold in their systems, they begin to rapidly deteriorate. Their physical forms rapidly begin to deteriorate, and their consciousness begins to fragment because they don't have a soul structure anymore that they're directly connected to. So in 250,000 BC.
According to ancient Aztec codices and oral tradition, Teotihuacan was established by the god Quetzalcoatl, who brought with him the knowledge of civilization and gold mining. Quetzalcoatl built 3 pyramids at Teotihuacan. The pyramids of the Moon, Sun, and Temple of Quetzalcoatl, which were modeled on the Giza pyramids. In addition, his arrival appears to coincide with the arrival of the Olmecs in ancient Mesoamerica. Teotihuacan's connection to ancient Egypt would not only explain the pyramids at Teotihuacan, but also the presence of the African Olmecs in the region. After the Anunnaki god Marduk's defeated Babel, he took over the realm of Egypt and displaced Anunnaki god Thoth as Lord of Egypt. In response, the Anunnaki god Thoth migrated to the Mesoamerican region, where he settled at Teotihuacan. The reasons for Teotihuacan's decline and eventual collapse are unknown, but by 750 AD, the city had been abandoned. However, if the ancient Aztec codices are to be believed, then the city was destroyed by a great deluge during the era of the fourth sun. The decline of Teotihuacan would pave the way for the rise of the next great empire of Mesoamerica, the Aztecs. Using the ancient astronaut hypothesis, the origin story.
The Egyptian artifacts make absolutely zero sense, and archaeologists might just be afraid of being wrong. How is it the further back in time we go, the more advanced they get? Egypt is old, like really old. Egypt is so old that even ancient Egyptians studied ancient Egyptian history thousands of years older than them. When the Romans discovered the pyramids, they were older to the Romans than the Romans are to us today. Woolly mammoths still roamed the earth when they were first built. And of course, everyone knows that Cleopatra lived closer to the invention of the iPhone, or hell, closer to you watching this video right now than she did to the construction of the pyramids. What's strange is that as time went on, their artifacts somehow got less and less advanced. The Egyptian Empire reigned for about 3,000 years, divided into approximately 31 dynasties classified into the Old, Middle, and New Kingdoms. When we go back to the first 5 or so dynasties, the Old Kingdom, we see impressive feats of design engineering unlike any other. And impressive is an understatement. These are straight up machine perfect down to the micrometer. Like this round vase, perfectly balancing itself dead center on a point no larger than the tip of an egg. Except this isn't your pottery class vase made of clay. It's granite. And granite is harder than steel. That's a fact. Here are the numbers. Here's another vase, slightly chipped, revealing its walls are as thin as a playing card. Another bowl made from diorite, a stone as hard or even slightly harder than granite, whose walls are literally 1/40th of an inch or 1/2 millimeter thick. We have no idea how to make granite pottery like this using known ancient methods, although high-tech machines could probably do the trick. But I don't think you realize how insane it is to suggest that this level of mechanical precision was achieved on granite using primitive tools softer than granite, the official claim. And these are just a few. There were over 40,000 of these artifacts found under the Step Pyramid of Djoser dating back to the 3rd or 4th dynasty, with some suggesting they're actually pre-dynastic, meaning they're even older, and the Old Kingdom Egyptians just inherited them from a previous civilization. Oh, we're in too deep now, Johnny boy. It's only in recent times when we finally analyzed them with modern light scanning technology that we found out how mind-bendingly precise they really are. They took a jar, did some some measurements in a lab, and to this day, Egyptologists have no explanation for these results. The top of the vase was 3/1000ths of an inch away from being perfectly flat, something only possible with like CNC machines today. For reference, a sheet of paper is 7/1000ths of an inch thick. A human hair is 2 to 3. This thing was a literal hair away from being perfectly flat. The inside lip of the vase's mouth was 1/1000th of an inch away from being perfectly perpendicular to the top, which is a mathematically flawless right angle. And the entire vase was 13/1000ths of an inch, which is still just like 2 sheets of paper away from being perfectly circular. These are legit CNC machine level perfections, mass produced over 40,000 times on a material harder than steel using copper and stone tools by hand. Oh, and they might be pre-dynastic, before copper tools were widely even used. I don't see an ounce of logic in that. Okay, maybe this one was just a fluke, right? A one-off perfect vase as a result of mass producing over 40,000 of them. So they took more into the lab and found even more astonishingly accurate measurements, revealing alleged machine-calculated mathematical use of pi, the golden ratio, and more, again to within thousandths of an inch of accuracy. That's like that much. Everything from the flatness of the base, the roundness, and even the uniformity of the thickness of the walls was nothing less of CNC machine perfection. Justifying this by saying they were just really skilled or they had a lot of time does not explain this level of precision with the known tools and methods at their disposal. There are even some vases that are reportedly made from corundum, which is magnitudes harder than granite and sits right behind diamond on the hardness scale. Although this one is for some reason debated, a lot of people claim it isn't made from corundum, but still others insist it is. A single one of these pots would have likely taken weeks, if not months, given modern explanations. Shouldn't there be evidence of their highly precise techniques all over ancient Egypt? Oh, there was this. A hieroglyph outlining the sculpting of an alabaster vase, one of the softest materials ever, softer than marble, and totally possible with their tools. But it's been proven that the technique outlined here would not work with granite. Sure, cutting into huge slabs using rough and painstakingly slow techniques using those tools might be possible, as we've seen them desperately trying to prove, but the force of friction required to achieve that simply would not be possible on small, delicate artifacts like these, never mind how machine accurate they are. Some of these vases are as small as a thimble, not even practical, and even harder to make, almost like they were just showing off, like, look what we can do. One theory is that these vases were spun on some sort of grinding tool, for which they have no evidence, no recordings of, but that's completely blown out of the water with the lug handles on the sides here. It's pretty obvious that these wouldn't be possible from spin grinding. Absolutely no one can explain how these lug handles were made, which again, lab results showed that they too were perfectly symmetrical and level to each other to within thousandths of an inch. Later dynasties even tried recreating these jars, and although still impressive, are nowhere near the precision of the earlier ones. This level of advanced pottery is said to have reached its peak in the first 2 dynasties, and then poof, they just forgot how to do it, which leads people to believe these artifacts might be much older than anyone thinks. What if they inherited them from even earlier previous civilizations? And it doesn't end with these. There's also the schist disc, crafted from a single piece of stone. Tell me, what kind of stone can be shaped like this by hand? No one really knows what this is, said to be a bowl or a flower holder of some sort, even though it looks sorta mechanical. Recovered from a 1st dynasty tomb, and again thought to be even older than that. Then we get to the statues, and these somehow make even less sense. The face of Ramesses at Luxor. Several of these statues were made in honor of the pharaoh Ramesses. Engineer Christopher Dunn noticed that there was something off about these faces. They were perfect, but almost too perfect, and not in a human way. He took a photo of the statue head, made it 50% transparent, flipped it, and overlaid the left side on the right side. Doing this, he discovered the face was perfectly symmetrical. Centerline measurements confirmed this too. It's like half the head was carved, then copy-pasted to the other half. We see consistent eye-to-mouth profile ratios across all of these statue heads. Something that we'd likely do with like 3D modeling programs today, computer accurate precision. Same thing with the crowns on their heads, and this wasn't done just once but repeated among many statues. This isn't something that anyone could just eyeball, but experts insist they were all done by hand. Professional sculptor Mike Leckie even wrote in a letter saying that his modern diamond tools would have been well worn out before barely even starting to sculpt something like this out of granite, and states that it would have been borderline impossible to repeatedly achieve this level of accuracy time and time again using only the tools we have evidence of. What machining technologies did ancient Egyptians or even earlier civilizations before them possess that archaeologists just simply refuse to even consider?
If there's even a small chance that the Anunnaki have to do with certain things going on in the world right now, would you even want to know? I'm actually talking about a very ancient document called the Myth of Athrasis. in which a mythological tale is laid out, talking about the gods, the Anunnaki, those from heaven to earth came, and their power to ultimately affect our world's natural disasters. Now, for purposes of this video, this is purely mythological. I mean, the document is thousands of years old, right? So it really can't have anything to do with today. This document even reveals the fact that the Anunnaki know what we're thinking, what we're feeling, and ultimately what our motivations are as the human race. Are you spooked yet? I know I am, but don't take my word for it. Go read it for yourself. My name's Cub. Follow.
We find that living here has been difficult for some aliens who came from afar. It's a completely different world than they're used to, and they've become frustrated by all of the cultural differences between Earthlings and their own.
You must be speaking about the reptilians, right? How they only value the strong?
Yes. However, some of them are able to form bonds with the people on Earth. They are sometimes reincarnated in the physical form of Earthlings, and by having those experiences, they make an effort to accept each other's differences, following the God of Earth's teachings.
I had already heard that Earthlings were subject to the law of reincarnation, but you're saying that space people also have the chance to be reincarnated as Earthlings?
Yes, exactly. When our lives here come to an end, our souls return to the spirit world. From there, we are reborn anew to continue our spiritual training. However, there are some people on Earth who blindly believe that this world is the only world that exists, and corrupt themselves as a result.
There are other groups like this Nordic group. There is an African-looking group. There is a Polynesian-looking group. I think we're going to find very few of these extraterrestrials are Caucasian or blonde-haired, blue-eyed, like a lot of people depict. Many, many, many of our cosmic cousins from the local 52 star cluster are people of color. And when we get to a point to our cosmic cousins actually visiting and integrating with us, we are going to be forced to deal with some of our petty racist programs.
The beans on black. Over 6,000 years ago, a mysterious civilization had detailed maps of our solar system. The Sumerians created these drawings using clay. The surviving drawings show that they understood that the sun is a star at the center of the solar system and that other planets revolve around it. They even accurately sketched the orbits and positions of the planets. Interestingly, some of their paintings also depict strange images with giant entities. The Sumerians considered them to be deities. Intriguingly, some of the drawings of these gods even display symbols resembling human DNA sequences. Additionally, they had symbols related to medicine, which bear significant resemblance to modern medical symbols. To this day, we still cannot understand how thousands of years ago, the oldest civilization of mankind had such profound knowledge of astronomy. This raises the question of whether this ancient civilization was not backward, but rather had advanced far beyond our current understanding of them.
Nibiru, the home planet of the Anunnaki, had a damaged atmosphere, which was causing environmental problems. To counteract this issue, the Anunnaki sought gold as a solution. According to some theories, the Anunnaki intended to suspend gold particles in their planet's atmosphere to create a protective shield. This shield was intended to mitigate the effects of their planet's damaged atmosphere, such as radiation or other environmental hazards. Gold is highly reflective and can deflect heat and radiation. They used gold particles and sheets to reflect harmful solar radiation away from Nibiru, thereby stabilizing their planet's climate. By introducing gold particles into Nibiru's atmosphere, the Anunnaki could potentially stabilize temperature variations and atmospheric conditions, preventing further deterioration. Questions often arise regarding why the Anunnaki didn't pursue alternative methods for obtaining gold, such as mining asteroids or utilizing advanced robotics. This may oversimplify the challenges involved in asteroid mining or overlook potential risks associated with advanced artificial intelligence. The assumption that mining equipment could easily be deployed on asteroids disregards the complexities and technological hurdles inherent in such endeavors. Additionally, speculation about the Anunnaki's potential experimentation with AI and robotics leading to unfavorable outcomes suggests a cautious approach to technological advancement.
Look at this, y'all. If you needed any more proofs of giants living, look at this. The ring fits his whole fist, y'all. He can fit that whole ring on his fist. Do you guys see that? Are you kidding me? 13,000 years ago? Wow. Yes, so the videos of giants that we have been seeing all over TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and all that, these are real beings or were real beings at one point in time. And I'm sure they will be coming back, because if they were here before, you know, there's nothing new under the sun, right? There is nothing new under the sun, so I'm sure they're going to be coming back. And that's the other thing. How do you know it's 13,000 years old? I thought they couldn't carbon date metal. Like, how do you, or whatever material this is composed out of? I'm sure it's some metal, some type of metal. Like, you know what I'm saying? But look at that. Look at the definition on that. Like, you literally have to be some type of, wow, some smith. I meant to say metalsmith, y'all. But yeah, all this stuff, like the type of jewelry that we have is nothing compared to this. You know, if this was real gold, this would be worth a lot of money. And think about that. If giants used to roam the earth, what kind of jewelry is probably hiding in the Vatican, under the Vatican? Because you know they are hiding this stuff in there, right? Because I don't believe these are just coming out of nowhere. I believe these are artifacts that they're coming out. Age of Aquarius. All right. So yeah, y'all look at that. That's amazing. Giants are real. Let's get it. So yeah, very interesting times we live in, y'all. Let me know what you guys think about this video. This video is strictly for entertainment purposes only. I am only raising awareness to interesting situations during this interesting times. Like, comment, and share for more videos like this. Thank you for tuning to my frequency. Let's get this shift. Peace in.
In 1976, there was allegedly a top-secret mission to the moon that was covered up by NASA and the Russian Space Agency. Now, during this mission, they found a melanated alien that was suspended in animation. This clip was supposedly leaked decades later by the commander of the mission, William Rutledge. Rutledge stated that they successfully landed on the moon and found a secret base. They also found a 3-mile-long cigar-shaped craft that was piloted by a female alien humanoid. They named her the Black Mona Lisa. She appeared to have locks, 6 fingers, and a visual third eye. The face piece that she's wearing was supposedly how she controlled the ship. It is unknown how old she was. Some suspect millions of years old. Now, this could all be made up, but knowing our government, anything's possible nowadays. There are a lot of people who believe we didn't actually go to the moon, while others believe we did go to the moon, but there's a sinister reason to why we haven't gone back. What do you think?
Archaeologists suggest it's only a coincidence, but the ancient handbag symbol, as it is known, has become a puzzling enigma for scholars worldwide since it appears in ancient carvings all over the world. The conventional belief is that the ancient civilizations around the planet and throughout history developed independently with little or no connection with one another. However, this symbol has been found in numerous ancient cultures, starting at Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, dating back 11,600 years. It also appears in ancient Egypt, Mesopotamia, ancient Greece, and the Balkans. Strangely, despite vast distances and the Atlantic Ocean between the continents, the ancient handbag symbol also shows up in Mesoamerican cultures like the Toltec, the Olmec, and the Maya. Here you can even see it in an ancient temple from India. Some speculate this mysterious symbol might represent the transfer of ancient knowledge.
Anunnaki, what are they?
They are these beings that came from off-world. These are aliens. Now, what's interesting about these aliens is that they're not little green men with antenna. They're actually hominids. They have 2 forward-faced looking eyes, 2 hands, legs. They put their pants on one leg at a time like us. And the reason why is because we have their genetics and their DNA inside of our bodies. Now, what's interesting is these beings were a spacefaring race that broke away from the Pleiadian star system. Now, these stars, according to ancient texts and tablets, there was an ancient galactic war there. Most of the information from Star Wars comes from this text. And this war, they had these destroyers like Death Star. They call them the Brahma-Astra and Brahma-Astra Honda weapons that actually can release a weapon that can destroy planets. Imagine if you're in a star system and a planet is being blown up and you're in a nearby planet. You got to get off of your planet. This created something called space refugees.
Where are you getting this information again? Where is it?
The Mahabharata, the Bhagavad Gita, the Indian Vedas.
So these are ancient Indian texts.
That's right.
5,000 years ago.
Yeah.
Did you know Adam from the Bible was a giant?
Here is his footprint. This is a shirt he would have fit. This is his tomb.
This anonymous video shows a strange and mysterious ancient artifact found in Egypt sometime in 2023. The cameraman is unknown, and as you can see when interacted with certain objects reveals strange results.
Throughout ancient Sumerian artifacts, symbols linked to the Anunnaki reveal their profound influence on civilization. These symbols, often intricate and stylized, depict powerful deities engaging with humans, showcasing their role as creators and guides. For instance, the winged disc, often interpreted as the Anunnaki's emblem, symbolizes divine authority and celestial power. Analyzing cylinder seals and pottery, scholars have unearthed depictions of the Anunnaki interacting with humans, suggesting a relationship built on guidance and instruction. Each artifact tells a story, often filled with iconography representing specific attributes of these deities. The bearded figures often seen on these artifacts likely represent the Anunnaki leaders, while other symbols may indicate their technological prowess. Some artifacts feature inscriptions that merge divine wisdom with human affairs, hinting at laws and knowledge bestowed upon humanity. By decoding these symbols, we gain insights into ancient beliefs and the Sumerians' view of their creators. This exploration not only illuminates the past, but also positions the Anunnaki as central figures in understanding early human civilization and its development.
Have you ever wondered where all the giants have gone? They used to be everywhere, walking this earth. But now, you don't see them. Remember, there was a time where everything grew big due to the amount of oxygen that the giant trees used to produce. But as you know, they chopped them all down. And anybody still capable of growing big gets labeled with having a disease. They call it giantism. They get prescribed medicine, more like poison, which stumps their growth. And I always find it funny that they could tell you what dinosaurs was eating and what they looked like 5 million years ago. But like, was you even there though, bruv? And some of you may not be aware, but any so-called dinosaur bones that they do find, they only find pieces. Most of that skeleton what you see there are reconstructed, fake bones. But anytime they do find any real giant bones, Smithsonian comes in and destroys them. But in the 1600s, the Spanish did capture a two-headed giant, and that is still on display. But like most facts of history, they still don't teach you the truth.
Discovered near Lake Titicaca in Bolivia in 1958, the Fuente Magna is an impressive stone vessel reminiscent of a libation bowl. It's adorned with intricately carved figures that are both human and animal in nature, echoing motifs common to the area's indigenous culture. What sets this artifact apart, however, are the inscriptions in two distinct scripts. One, an ancient Proto-Sumerian alphabet, and another that belongs to the ancient Pucara language, a precursor to the Tiahuanaco civilization. Dubbed the Rosetta Stone of the Americas, it has sparked heated debates due to its implications of a possible link between the ancient Sumerians and the Andean civilizations, despite the vast distance separating them. The story of the Fuente Magna bowl's discovery is quite unassuming. A farmer stumbled upon it while working on land owned by the Manjon family, who later exchanged the artifact for property closer to La Paz in 1960. The bowl's unique inscriptions caught the eye of Bolivian archaeologist Max Portugal Zamora, who, despite his efforts, couldn't crack their code, partly because he didn't recognize the cuneiform-like writing dating back about 5,000 years. The engravings on the bowl piqued the interest of epigraphist Dr. Clyde Ahmed Winters, who saw parallels with ancient Libico-Berber script and proposed that the inscriptions might be Proto-Sumerian. His translation suggests the bowl was used in rituals to honor the goddess Nia, potentially for fertility purposes, supported by the depiction of a figure on the bowl in a pose associated with such rituals. Dr. Winters' findings, if accurate, challenge our understanding of ancient civilizations and raise compelling questions about global connections in the distant past. Researcher Yuri Leverato and others speculate about how Sumerian elements could have reached the highlands of Bolivia, suggesting ancient Sumerian voyagers might have traversed the globe, influencing the cultures and languages they encountered, such as the similarities observed between Proto-Sumerian and the Aymara language.
This bowl, with its cryptic inscriptions, might just be a breadcrumb left behind by these cosmic travelers, a tangible echo of a world where the lines between gods and men, between Sumer and the Andes, blurred into a singular, pre-flood civilization. Could it be that these gods, or perhaps travelers with knowledge surpassing the ages, established a civilization that spanned the globe, leaving behind not just monuments, but a legacy uncoded in stone and script? Could we be looking at a relic of an era when the Anunnaki walked among us, guiding humanity and shaping a civilization that history has yet to fully acknowledge? Only time will tell.
Hello, America and everyone around the world. These are ancient Anunnaki Egyptian giant burial mounds, which I consider them to be pyramids. This is the highest center landmass point of Long Island. And look what's here. There is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 pyramids. And it's the form of the Big Dipper, you know, the Pleiades star system. And then also, this is amazing. There's a lake here, top of this mountain. And this was here before the township built their whole facility on top of this massive mound that was here. It was a massive mound, and I've already talked to people. When they did the work here, there was a massive mound, and they put this whole complex right on top of it. And then this solar panel thing, there's a huge mound underneath of this. And then there's more mounds all up here behind the high school, all bulldozed. And there's a massive one up here. They're all through the whole area. And then the church property with the serpent snake mound and the Jesus statue on top of the church property, and where they bulldozed through a mound here, and then they bulldozed right through another mound here, completely right through the mounds, like bulldozed it. So this is truly amazing. So this was built in 1991, according to the Google time-lapse times. 1991 is when this pyramid, and this pyramid was bulldozed. It's really a shame. They cover it up. And I found a gold-painted spearhead. Let's show you exactly where I found it. See how this mound is here? Right over here on the side. Right down there. Yeah, because there's a lot more artifacts there. So there's another amazing site here too. And then there's all these other, and there's a lot that I haven't listed on this. You see all the blue dots? They're all burial mounds. Were these ancient Anunnaki giants. Now what we're going to go is we're going to go up to this Rocky Point Pine. It's a state park. And this used to have the largest RCA communication tower in the world till 1979 or so, when it was taken down. And there's mounds here, and the Tesla Science Center is right here. So Tesla knew about these mounds. They knew about the ancient people and why they built these mounds of all crystal artifacts and crystal mountains and all kinds of stuff. So this one here is 180 feet. That is the top of the handle, because when you follow it down, it makes, it makes like a little dipper. And then this one here in the center, 210 feet. Okay. Now, this is an average of 140 feet through this whole area. Everything is like 140 feet. And then you can even actually see the ancient roadway that used to come in here, because they would need an ancient roadway to build these mounds, right? You have to bring in all the material, all the artifacts, and everything, and all the boulders to build it. There's another one here. This one here is 170 feet. And then this one here is 180 feet. So I believe Tesla knew about this. The government knew about it. And guess who funded Tesla? JP Morgan, Chase Bank, because they were in the oil industry. And when Tesla said, "Oh, I got all this free energy from these ancient civilizations," and figured it out, JP Morgan case cut all the funding. Thanks for watching.
Our ancient past may have come into contact with highly advanced technology, and they didn't even try to hide it from us. Take a look at this. Why does almost every ancient civilization have these carvings of people holding handbags? Or at least something that looks like a handbag, but what are they? And this is definitely not some coincidence. I mean, these handbags are found everywhere. From the ancient Sumerians in Iraq to the Egyptians, Turkey, Italy, India, Indonesia, Mexico, South America, New Zealand, all over the world. One of the most common themes in ancient stone carvings, and we have little explanation for it. Some people say that it's a basket or a bucket of water. I mean, it could be, but like, why? And still others claiming that it's a symbol of life or passing down of knowledge to the next generation of humans. But even so, what are the chances that every single one of these cultures chose this handheld purse, a completely out of context object, as their symbol? Convergent evolution is a theory that humans tend to think and evolve in a similar manner, independent of each other, but using that as an explanation is a bit of a stretch. One thing we know for certain is this handbag was significant, as was anything that was carved into stone this often. Some of the crazier theories even say that this could have been the ancients' interpretation of some advanced technology, drawing similarities to the packs that astronauts carry, but given that's also quite a stretch. So is this symbolic of life and knowledge, or just an innocent bucket of water? The answer could be hidden deep in these following records, starting in Egypt with this hieroglyph uncovered in the Temple of Osiris. Just have a look at these and tell me if you see anything, cause I don't know, maybe I'm the one that's tripping here. But does this not look like a helicopter? Maybe a tank or a boat? An airplane? What looks to be a spaceship, all carved into stone thousands of years old? Now I already hear the Google debunkers crying this has been proven wrong, that these are just hieroglyphs that were written many times over, and these shapes are just a combination of many characters. Damn, didn't know they were there when these were carved, given how 100% certain they are of it. There are so many other questionable hieroglyphs in ancient Egypt, but I'm gonna have to save those for another video. Okay, if you're trying to sleep tonight, then you might want to scroll now, or at least save this video for later, because we about to see just how deep this rabbit hole goes. Let's take this all the way back to the caveman days with Paleolithic cave drawings and carvings, also known as petroglyphs. These ancient aboriginal cave paintings in Australia dating back to 15,500 BC, known as the Bradshaw paintings. Take a note of the big round heads here. China Lake Naval Air Weapons Center near Death Valley, California has petroglyphs dating 16,000 years. Again, tall beings with bubble-shaped heads and lines coming out. Oh, look at that. We see similar cave drawings in Ginkgo State Park near Vantage, Washington, all in the US of A. Tassili Najar is a plateau in Algeria, Africa, with these rock paintings dating to about 10,000 BC, again with these strange bobblehead creatures, almost like they're wearing helmets. Some of them even appear to be wearing gloves and full-on suits. Now, before you say, oh, that's just how they drew humans back then, well, cause right beside them we have these drawings of completely normal looking beings, so What are these creatures? Other side of the world, in Toro Muerto, Peru, petroglyphs around 12,000 years old of beings with bubbles around their heads and lines coming out. Across the ocean to Asia, cave paintings in Chhattisgarh, India, dating about 8000 BC, feature bubble heads with lines coming out. Over to Europe, the Val Camonica prehistoric rock art in Italy, over 5,000 years old, and you tell me what you see here. A human-looking creature holding strange tools, wearing a bubble helmet with lines coming out of it. Yeah, because prehistoric humans around the world just all decided to draw the same thing, right? Then we start to come out of the Neolithic era to the oldest known civilization, the Sumerians, whose tablets include this stone carving. We have no clue what this is, but it really do look like some flying object with some force field coming out from underneath. And this other tablet looks pretty innocent until you notice this. Doesn't that kind of look like a sun shape that just so happens to have 9 balls around it? Exactly the amount of planets in our solar system. Guess they counted Pluto, so did they have advanced knowledge of our planets over 4,000 years ago? Back to the Egyptians, we see this dude in some serpent-looking craft. Could be part of their mythology, but then we see the exact same thing in the Maori of New Zealand and the Aztec and Olmecs of Central America. And now the Mayans. Oh man, what on earth is this carving? Some complex-looking contraption complete with hand controls and something up his nose? Not to mention they seem to be wearing helmets again, which sure could be decorative, but what on earth are these contraptions they're in? Is this their way of interpreting spaceships? These Mayan discs, allegedly revealed by the Mexican government, are over 1,000 years old and hidden until 2012, and I mean, just look at what's going on here. Granted, there's a lot of controversy around these, and they do seem a little fishy, but physicist Nassim Haramein gave a full presentation about it, so I don't know, you be the judge. This 3,000-year-old spaceship carving found in modern-day Turkey, but of course debunkers will admit it's anything but that. A silver-suited figurine wearing a helmet and gloves found in a Ukrainian village dating back to 600 BC. Carvings of people wearing helmets and full-on suits and gloves at the Hoysalaswara temple in India, dating back to about 900 years old, if not more. Are those spacesuits? Note that these are different from these spacesuit statues in Spain, which were actually just part of a restoration project in 1992, so don't be fooled. Even as recent as the Renaissance, tell me, what on earth are these little creatures flying in spacecraft doing in a Jesus painting from 1350? Look closely and you'll find similar flying saucers in dozens of these works of art over hundreds of years old. I mean, seriously, this list is endless. The more I looked, the more I found, but it wasn't easy. So if you're interested in trippy shit like this that you won't find on Google, to join the waitlist for my upcoming private chat. And the angels you see in religious Renaissance paintings have been around a lot longer than you think. Predating even the Bible, depictions of winged beings were very popular among Egyptian hieroglyphs. And we see the same pattern in the carvings of the Sumerians, which are even older. Some of them even going a step further and showing these beings with the head of a bird. Now, why the obsession with birds? Let me finish you off with this thought. If some primitive civilization were to come into contact with something they can't explain with their current understanding of the world, don't you think they would describe that thing in terms they can understand? So if they were to witness some sort of being coming down from the sky, the only thing they know that are airborne are birds, so naturally they would associate that being with a bird. A far-fetched yet plausible explanation of the popularity behind bird-like gods among these ancient cultures, which leads us to their creation myths. And yo, listen, pretty much every single one of the world's ancient civilizations have the same story of how we came to be. Okay, I know this was a lot, but I just couldn't believe what I found out about these stories, so I have to save this for another video. Hey, I gotta tell you, I might not be around for very long, Jimmy boy.
They've been hiding this from you. The Sphinx wasn't just a guardian of the pyramids. It's the key to a hidden underground city. But that's not even the craziest thing that was recently discovered. In ancient Egyptian texts, there are references to hidden chambers, saying, "Beneath the lion lies the heart of our knowledge." The Sphinx was carved over 4,000 years ago, so what secrets lie beneath it? This is where things get scary. In recently discovered papyrus scrolls, it's said that the Sphinx wasn't merely a statue, but an entrance to an advanced ancient civilization known as the Osirians. The scrolls specifically mention that the Osirians, who possessed advanced engineering and knowledge, built a vast underground city beneath the Sphinx to protect their wisdom and technology from invaders. However, once the Osirians vanished, their city was sealed, and the true purpose of the Sphinx was hidden to keep their advanced knowledge out of the wrong hands. This explains why ground-penetrating radar has detected anomalies beneath the Sphinx, and why access to these areas remains restricted.
Ain't nothing to fear. What is it like to come in contact with a 9-foot tall being with thick woolly hair and fiery eyes, right? With gold chest plate and 4 wings, right? And a staff. And when he opened his mouth, it sounded like, right, 1,000 lions roaring. tremble, man. You tremble at that, you know. You tremble at that, the sound of his voice, man. You see what I'm saying? The man's voice sound like 1,000 lions roaring at one time. 9 foot tall with eyes of fire. Real thick woolly hair with a crown on his head that'll blind you, man, from the diamonds and rubies on it. You know what I'm saying? That's why you can't look at God, because he got too much diamonds and jewelry on, man. You know what I'm saying? That's why you can't see God and live, blind you, man. Take your sight out from the crown that he knew got on his head, which would be equivalent to $2 trillion down here if he traded in. If you can get a hold of a new crown and break it down for the gold and rubies on this thing and the technology that they got on it, you would get over. They probably wouldn't have enough money to cash you out down here, man. That's how much this crown worth.